so I'm probably in the minority when I say that this episode does not interest me all that much. I get the appeal. It's Sonic versus Flash, but the most powerful versions. Because we all know that Barry Allen would smoke Game Sonic. Anyway, it's a neat idea, don't get me wrong, but it just isn't something I'm interested in all that much. I guess the first thing we should address with this prediction is speed. So before we look into what's actually important, I just want, for a bit of a fun fact, I have actually found the highest calcs for either character that I could find on the internet, just for fun. This is not actually that important, it's just for fun. So the absolute fastest calculation I've seen for Archie Sonic is from this here, and this feat has been calculated to an immense 6.45 quadrillion times the speed of light. Wally, however, has, well, this feat, outracing the inflation of the Big Bang. Now, the important thing to note is that this is the DC Universe's Big Bang. It's much bigger than ours. Remember how Beerus was 9 times universal because the Dragon Ball universe is 9 times the size of ours? Well, the DC Universe is 100 trillion light years. That's 2,150 times bigger than our universe. So you shouldn't be shocked to find that Wally West's top speed is 1.89 octodecillion times the speed of light, which is magnitudes higher than Archie Sonic, but here's the thing. Neither of these numbers really scratch the surface. Let's take a quick look at the blogs Ultra Guy has put out. And speaking of which, I've heard at least one person say that Archie Sonic will be lowballed because of Ultra Guy, and don't think that. I have spoken with Ultra in the past, not related to this episode, just I've spoken to him in a server before. He's a cool guy. Although he's not as cool as DJ Tiki, but don't tell him I said that. But he's directly told me that he's fine with multiversal Archie Sonic, so don't be worried about any absurd lowballs unless you're like that one guy who told me that Beerus is complex multiversal via calc stacking. Even though you cannot be, by definition, you cannot be complex multiversal by calc stacking. You cannot add numbers until you reach infinity. That's just not how numbers work. Also, Ultra Guy isn't researching Archie Sonic, so shut up. So, about the whole thing about how about the whole thing where those numbers don't scratch the surface, Wally West outran the Speed Force once. It doesn't even make sense. He's powered by the Speed Force. How? Imagine a car driving so fast its engine flies out the back and the car is still going. Does that make any bloody sense? Meanwhile, Sonic has run fast enough to bend space-time. In other words, both of these two have just immeasurable speed. Putting a number on either of these characters, and you're listening, Archie Sonic fans, either of the characters would be a low ball inherently. In terms of physical strength, I know that Archie Sonic is considered multiversal by at least a few people on the research team, so that's pretty locked in. Wally, however, he's also multiversal, and people severely underestimate how powerful the Flash is, especially fucking Wally tore apart the Anti-Monitor's armor. And yeah, he was being weakened at the time, but they addressed this in the blog. Even the Spectre wasn't able to damage Anti-Monitor's armor at the time, so yeah. He also produced enough energy to be mistaken for the Source Wall, or the Source, fuck. You know. So they're both multiversal, and they're both so fast that numbers don't really apply. So it comes down to hacks. Let's see what hacks and powers they have. Wally has lightning form from Materialized Hope, the ability to vibrate through the 4th dimension somehow, vibrations that can absorb any energy fired into him, the ability to travel to other dimensions by vibrating, invisibility, intangibility, the ability to blow things up from the inside by phasing through them, molecular manipulation, time travel, the capacity to steal other people's speed, literally endless kinetic energy, and cosmic awareness. Archie Sonic has the ability to bring back his speed after losing all inertia, and travel between dimensions with rings, phasing, mind hacks resistance, transmutation resistance, life force soul and mind erasure resistance, time manipulation resistance, supersonic, ultrasonic, matter manipulation resistance, chaos control that can match the power of the Super Genesis wave, and ultrasonic is not that ultra. So first off, both Wally and Sonic can tap into extra-dimensional multiverse spanning powers. Wally can weaponize the entire Speed Force, while Sonic's Chaos Control can match multiversal energies itself. So you could argue that matches it, that they match each other in that regard. Sonic also has resistances to Wally's matter manipulation. Both of them can go through time, and Sonic can use rings to potentially give him back the speed Wally could steal from him. But I think Wally kind of has this. Sonic doesn't seem to have any resistances to Wally just blowing him up from the inside, and While Sonic can restore his speed, the blogs don't really say if he has a limit of rings. I don't know. Wally can just continuously steal Sonic's speed, but if Sonic does not have enough rings, he will just run out of speed eventually. So I think Wally probably just barely edges out a victory here, but who will Death Battle give the win to? I don't know. These blogs are likely missing key information despite how very in-depth they are. But we have two characters with impossible to comprehend speeds that go beyond the concepts of space and time. They can both fight characters who can wipe out multiverses, and both can tap into powers that span the multiverse on an extra-dimensional level. So I really think this could go either way. Wally probably has more in his favour, but if Sonic wins, I won't be surprised. This is in no way one of those concrete predictions like last time where I was like, yeah, Todoroki's winning, obviously. This is by a landslide the closest match we've had this season, and there's a good chance that over the course of the next 2 weeks I'm going to be changing opinions and flopping over time. So I guess there's a part of me that is hyped. I like longer Death Battle episodes, and this one has to break the 20-minute mark. Beerus vs. Galaxia was the only one this season to break 20 minutes, and that's only on the YouTube release. The original was like 18 minutes on Rooster Teeth. They added 2 minutes of ads. I love longer analyses. That's something I love about Battle Royale. They go really in-depth instead of feeling kind of rushed. Speaking of kind of rushed, let's talk about Zuko vs. Todoroki. I don't want to rain on anybody's fire parades. If you like this episode, that's awesome. I'm glad you could like something I didn't. Some people didn't like Beerus vs. Galaxia. I did. This is the other way around. Personally, if I had known that we'd get this, then I would never have put this on my dream season list. I'm serious, this was not great. First off, one thing I really didn't like was the lack of numbers. There were no numbers for speed, no numbers for AP, no numbers for durability, nothing. All we got was whose fire was hotter, a number that is completely useless. Zuko can melt ice. You don't need to know that Todoroki's fire is hotter. Zuko can melt ice, and that's all that temperature has to do with Zuko's fighting ability. And, oh yeah, Todoroki's fire can harm Zuko because it's hotter, but Azula's fire is also hotter than Zuko's, it's blue, and Zuko was fine against her. The temperature of the flames doesn't fucking matter. The Q&A says that they want to lessen the use of numbers like that because Americans don't understand what prefixes like mega and giga mean, but seriously, do you want to know a really fucking simple way to deal with that? The part where you say, 1 gigaton is 1,000 times stronger than 1 megaton. It bothers me they didn't include any numbers because it makes the research seem super half-assed. Or, you know what? I can't really blame the research team. They're just in charge of getting the research. There's probably other people in charge of all the number crunching and all the other stuff they have to do and all that. And I think they did it. I think they did crunch the numbers in the blogs. It was the writing, actually, that just didn't include them. And it makes the conclusion feel really weak. It's like, oh, obviously this is bigger and more impressive. Might I remind you of the fact that obviously Alien X bringing the universe back is more impressive than the U-Bomb when you just look at them, but oh wait, the DC universe is 2,000 times bigger than ours, so the U-Bomb is more impressive. Even though when you just look at them, the Annihilarch seems way more impressive because it actually did something. Like, I'm not the only one who gets the feeling that this episode was rushed, right? Like they had some other episode planned, but pushed it back because of some reason and had to quickly throw some shit together. I mean, it's pretty obviously a win for Todoroki from the start, and neither character has boatloads of research that need to be done. You look at the first 3 seasons of Hiroaka and the 3 seasons of Atla, and that's really all you need. I don't know, I'm spitballing possibilities to justify why I don't like this episode, beyond the fact that I just did not like it. The jokes were also kinda bland. I swear, there were 5 fucking jokes about Boomstick's dad, and 3 of them were in Zuko's analysis. The rest of the jokes were either predictable, like the, oh, this Todo kid's edgy jokes, or jokes that I expected to happen, like Dummy saying, guess I'll die, I knew that would come eventually, or Wiz hitting Boomstick with his elemental attack instead of Dummy. Like, the moment Dummy showed up, and Wiz was posing, I knew he was gonna hit Boomstick instead. The only halfway decent joke, in my opinion, was the one about Boomstick's back hurting from carrying the show. The only other time I laughed was Zuko saying,
I don't care how much power you have.
Which has nothing to do with the actual line being funny. Speaking of which, honestly, animation-wise, this is the worst puppet fight we've gotten. Miles vs. Static was smooth as butter. That was fantastic. But then it just went downhill. Gray vs. Esdeath was stiff, but not this stiff. And, okay, Jake vs. Danny was pretty good. Though, what is this? Look at these key poses. Zuko's motions are so stiff. I would have assumed they'd go with puppet animation specifically to make the bending animation smoother. But no, this looks terrible. I mean, it's not as bad as the bending animation for Wiz when he was bending, but what is this? Todoroki's sprite has a face so long it resembles a biffweed, and look at that pose. Look at these poses. These key poses look so stiff, unnatural, there's no line of action. Galaxia had a few moments like this, like when she crashes onto the planet or when she and Beerus are colliding their big balls, where she looks very static, lacking like any dynamic line of action and movement, but this is that problem, but for the entire episode. The only parts I thought were good were the hand-drawn stuff. I mean, they look really good, aside from this Cable vs. Booster T-Rex tear drawing near the end. The hands-drawn stuff just looked top-notch. I love that shot of the eye when he's like opening it up and it's like, plus ultra. Well, he doesn't say plus ultra, he says go beyond. Like, that looks really good. But then, like, there are things that I would have liked to actually see instead of cutting away, like the idea of Todoroki sliding on ice while Zuko's bursting with fire and, like, they're skating across the ground, shooting things at each other. That would have been cool to see instead of cutting away to some trees. The Cabbage's Man cameo was annoying, not because I didn't appreciate it or I didn't like it, but because the Cabbage Man's animation is smoother than Shoto and Zuko's. And that's because you can tell that Shoto and Zuko, for like 90% of the animation, are animation rigs. Each limb is separate as its own sprite, so instead of having in-between animations, they have two key poses and then they just rig the animation in between. And like, I get it, it's cheaper probably than making your own sprite, but it looks rubbish. But the only other good thing I can say is the effects look really nice. I mean, the effects do look really good. And that shot near the ending, that looks fantastic. I love that scene from the anime, and they replicate it here, and it looks really good. Then there's the death. And I've seen people go, oh, that death was great. And I'm happy for you if you liked it. Legitimately, if you disagree with anything I'm saying, that's fine. But I disagree. He just stabs Zuko and then Zuko is frozen. I would have liked more of that cool hand-drawn look to replicate the big fire blast he does in the very end of the scene that they're referencing. That'd be a cooler finish, ironically. Or the thing where he jams his hand in your mouth and freezes you inside and out. That'd be unique. Or maybe actually showing the necrosis happening. This is just he stabs Zuko with a big ice and that's it. This is pretty much the same kill as the Fatal Conflict, but this is actually less creative. And if you're not paying super close attention, if you can't even tell that Zuko got stabbed, you can barely tell even if you freeze frame it. It just looks like Zuko was hit with the same attack earlier. And it makes no sense when you think about it, because this smaller ice ball kills him when the massive fuck-off ice ball didn't. How? Like, I get it, it's because it stabbed him, but then how didn't the big one stab him at all? And then, oh, that voice acting was fucking amazing. I'm not all that negative in this part. The voice acting is phenomenal. I mean, everyone's talking about Dante Bosco, I'll get to that, but that Todoroki voice was pretty good. I love Todoroki's dub voice, and this is a really great replication. And I knew from the moment I saw the live sneak peek that Dante fucking Bosco was involved, and holy shit, the balls on that guy. His name is just directly there. The Chad Dante Bosco, the Virgin, all of these guys. Oh, and the music was fine, but I didn't actually notice the music until I rewatched specifically to listen to it. But the reason they fight was stupid. I mean, they could have easily had it so the Blue Spirit was a villain Todoroki was chasing. Imagine that, Todoroki corners the Blue Spirit in, like, a dark area, and, like, the fight starts all dark, but as fire is used, it progressively lights up, and you can have a really cool-looking lighting effect around the area. That'd look really cool. Or maybe even just have Todoroki walked into the village randomly, and the village was freaking out because Zuko is a firebender, you know? Like in the show, then that happened that one time? Not just Zuko shoots Todoroki by accident. Like, what is this, Rewind Rumble? Look, I'm not a fan of this episode, guys, and I'm really sad about it. This is one of my dream matches. I don't have many. I love both of these characters. It's very thematic, it has a lot of potential, and I knew it was happening. I predicted it in the video, I predicted that, and Red Hood vs. Winter Soldier, though Red Hood's not confirmed yet, but as of now, I think I prefer the Fatal Conflict. Well, okay, prefer is not the right word. I like the fact that the Fatal Conflict has smoother animation and sprites that are less ugly. And I'm sorry I'm being negative. I don't want to lie about my opinion, though. I don't want to tell you that I liked an episode I didn't, just because people want me to like it. It's fine if you like it. What angers me most is that I have to say that. I have to say, if you like it, that's okay. I hate that I have to say that, but I do. Have you seen some of my comment sections? Probably not, because people get into fights and then I have to delete the comment because I don't want more people getting into fights and thus making their day worse because they got into a fight. And I hate deleting comments, but like I feel bad for deleting them, but then I don't want other people to feel bad for getting into fights with people on the internet. I was disappointed by this episode, though. And I didn't want to be. So in the end, when I leave this room, this recording room, talking about how much I dislike it, all I can expect is Dante Bosco standing outside to say,
That's rough, buddy.